All right, back with another video. Like I said before in my previous video, I'm gonna start doing more videos right there on the spot. I be getting a lot of messages, but sometimes I like to put them off until I get in a more perfect setting. But I realize that is feeding my perfection. So if you deal with perfection and you struggle with putting out content or doing things, ask yourself if you're trying to do it in a perfect way. So I realized I have got back into that space, and so I'm gonna start making videos wherever I'm at. I'm gonna just do it right there on the spot, raw and uncut, and just give you guys what I need to give you. So today this video is going to be talking about the ego. I'm gonna start doing a series on talking about the ego, because there's so much knowledge about the ego that people are just not aware of at all, and it is so ambiguous, it is so deep, it's so occult, it's so esoteric, and so many layers to understanding the ego. So I think I'm gonna start a series on talking about the ego. If you guys resonate with this video after it's done, please leave me a fire flame. Let me know that you rock with it. Also, hit that subscribe button and also like the video so this can trigger the algorithm for anybody else who may need to hear this message. And as a side note, before I begin the video, I do consultations, I do energy healing, and pretty soon I'm about to get certified in something else that I'll be sharing with you guys. So just for the people who are first time seeing this video, I am a person who helps people to heal. I am a facilitator of helping people to heal. So if you're a person who trying to get deep into your healing journey, you're trying to work through some blockages, you're trying to work through some trauma, you're trying to work through some psychological issues, some subconscious issues, you're trying to understand more about yourself, you're trying to understand more about spirituality, you need more guidance, anything like that, I am your guy. Okay. I would try to leave my email at the end of this. I'd be forgetting to put my email, but that's just a little, something for you guys who are interested in doing some work. So the name of this video, I think I'm gonna call it the nature of the ego part 1. All right, so let's just dive deep. Let's get into it. So a lot of us know what the ego is and a lot of us don't, so let's just throw out a lot of the don'ts. The ego is not, when people say, oh, you just got a big ego, or you're very cocky, or you're very conceited, or you seem like you're a very bodacious type person. That is an aspect of the ego, but that's so superficial. The ego is way much deeper than that. So we're talking about the nature of the ego. So anything that is considered to be nature, right, which is where I'm at right now, right, we're in nature in these streets. Anything that's considered to be nature related is the essence of it, right? It's the way that it ticks, right? So in this particular video, I want to talk about one aspect of the nature of the ego, right? Or another word, you'll hear me say the personality. Your personality is your ego. Or you hear me, another term is called the critic, the inner critic that is inside of you. And so today we're going to talk about thoughts or images and verbiage. We're going to talk about images and verbiage. That's the two traits that we're going to talk about that is connected to the ego. Images and verbiage. So you have to understand something, right? When we have a lot of things that we may be inclined to want to do, or things that we don't want to do, or things that we don't want to experience, or things that we deem that's a threat, or things that we deem that's challenging, or things that we deem that's stressful, your ego is going to send you an image of it, and it's going to also tell you some type of it's going to give you some communication, some verbiage. This is very important because through our day-to-day life, the ego or the inner critic is constantly talking to you. That voice in your head is constantly talking to you. And so that's why I say one of its traits is constant verbiage. And over a period of time, constant verbiage just sounds like a bunch of noise. And over a period of time, you get to the point where you're like, yo, I'm tired of hearing this shit. Can you turn this shit off? After a while, people don't even like to listen to their voice or listen to these thoughts because it becomes so negative or becomes so disharmonious or becomes so distorted that it's like listening to a radio and you got a certain channel on that you don't even fuck with and you keep listening to it because you have to listen to it. That's kind of like how your ego is. You have to constantly listen to these thoughts all fucking day. So when I say that one of its foundational traits is verbiage or language or constant communication or conversations in your mind, that's one aspect of the ego. The other aspect of the ego is imagery, imagination, visions, pictures. These are also things that you may experience when the ego is trying to convince you to do something or to avoid something. So understand this, the ego's foundation is survival. All it is concerned with is survival. All it is concerned with is protecting you. So it's not a negative thing. That's one thing I want to throw out here too. People think that the ego is negative, and it can be to a certain degree. Like if you having constant negative talk, yes, we can say that's self-destructive in a sense, especially if you're buying into it. But in terms of the nature of the ego does not. It's not against you. Let me just say that. It's for you. And to give you a perspective, what I mean by that, let me do a reframing of that. When you have a situation such as, say for instance, you want to talk to a girl, right? You're in the mall and you want to talk to a girl. You may have some past experiences where when you used to talk to girls, they didn't work out in your favor. So what your ego does, or the inner critic, right, or that personality, that voice does, it comes in and it says, yo, don't talk to her because look at her beauty. She look like she holds herself up well. She look like she's a status type woman. Do not talk to her. What you do is you listen to it and you buy into it and you don't talk to her. So what some people would say is, one side of it, people would say, yeah, you can't listen to that voice in your head. You just got to do what you got to do. You got to give it all you got and you got to get it. You got to, by any means, do what it is that you say you're going to do regardless of what the voice tells you. That's one aspect. Another aspect of it is, okay, that doesn't mean it's negative. That doesn't mean it's negative. When you hear that voice, what that voice is trying to do is protect you from hurting yourself, what you deem hurtful, what you deem painful. It comes in and it says, oh, no, we're not doing that. So what most people say is, oh, this is negative. This is negative because it's constantly trying to get me from not doing something. But in reality, it's actually trying to protect you. That's how it protects you, and that's how it should be perceived, that it's actually trying to protect you. It's trying to get you to avoid something that can be discomforting, because the ego does not like to experience vulnerability. It doesn't like to experience vulnerable emotions. So it deems vulnerability or emotional discomfort as something that is very painful. So what it does is it sends you a message, right, or a conversation or imagery that looks very like discomforting or looks very like unpleasing, and so you buy into it. So another example what that would be is, if so the ego will tell you, yo, don't go talk to that girl gonna reject you, she gonna do this. That's the verbiage component, right? Like I said, it works off of two traits, verbiage and imagery. If it doesn't come through a conversation, it's gonna paint an image, it's gonna paint an imagination. So you have to understand that the ego is constantly in a state of imagination. So this is why imagination is so powerful, because it can work against you or it can work for you. you want to be more intentional about your imagination. If you say that, okay, I'm gonna go talk to this girl, and then then you intentionally imagine you're talking to this girl, and she tells you all these wonderful things, and she gives you the number, and then you guys continue to talk after you get the number, and then y'all talk while you're at home, and then you get on the phone with her, and then y'all talk that night, and y'all laugh and y'all giggle. Y'all got so much in common. Y'all got synchronicities popping off. Y'all like to look at certain YouTubers. Y'all are just so in alignment. Your imagination that you intentionally create can have that type of outcome because you're feeding it with your awareness. You're feeding it with your attention. So what the ego does, though, the ego likes to send negative imagination. We're going to call it, for the sake of differentiating and also for the sake of this video, we're going to say that it creates negative imagination. And so what most of us do, we don't create positive imagination. We listen only to the default negative imagination. Oh, you can't have that girl. Look at that girl. Look at yourself. Look what you got on. Your hair is not done. You ain't got no lining. She probably not going to like you because your beard is not clean enough. Matter of fact, you don't even know how to talk right. You talk like you got a boot in your mouth because you're from New Orleans. So you already know she going to sit up there. She going to sit up there and say she don't know how you talk. You know what I'm saying? Your mind going to come up with all these different type of things. And what we do is we see that story play out in our minds, and then we give energy to it, and then we believe that it's going to be the reality or the outcome. So let's recap. I told you that the ego works off of imagery and off of words, right? So when you combine imagery and words together, what do you get? You get a movie. You get imagination. You get a narrative storyline. So that voice in our head creates a narrative, creates a story. So this is why they always tell you to always detach from the narrative in your mind, because the narrative that you are playing out in your mind has a negative stream of energy tied to it, and that's actually what you live out, or that's what you actually think that's what you are. So the negative, if the narrative is I can't get a girl because of X and Y and Z, that's the actual image that you can see, imagination, plus a conversation that's tied to the imagination that's created a movie in your mind. So these are what we call mental movies, right? A lot of us have a lot of mental movies that we are so invested into, and we think that it is our reality. But I want you guys to really think about this too. Every time that you had an experience, every time that you had an imagination that you deemed that you did not want to experience, and you go to say, like, okay, give me an example, right? Let's go back to the same example. The imagination is that you cannot get this girl, right? You talk to the girl, and you actually get the girl number, and you actually do take her out, and you actually do get to know her. Next thing you know, you marry her, and next thing you know, you guys live happily ever after. So you'll notice, if you pay attention, because it's so goddamn, it's a trickster energy. It really knows how to trick you into thinking that this will be a reality for you. But if you pay attention to throughout all your past experiences, right now, while you guys listening to this video, I want you to engage and pay attention to your past experiences. There's been moments where you when you envision something, you go to the event, you go to the person, place, or thing, whatever it is that you're trying to get into. And that imagination that you thought of or had, it didn't even happen. It never happened. So that goes to show you that the ego doesn't have factual evidence about what will happen in the future or will happen in the present. Its only concern is survival. So what it does is, it's like, basically, it's kind of like before you have sex. They say don't think about it so much because you're psyching yourself out. They're talking about your psychology. You'll get so burnt out thinking about something that you deem that you do not want to happen in such a negative setting that you burn yourself out, and therefore you don't even get to the girl house to have sex with her, or therefore you don't even talk to the girl because you are already psychologically burnt yourself out by overthinking. You can't put so much energy into something that is not factual. The ego is a fictitious entity, meaning it is an energy that is fictitious. It is an energy that is not real. So it creates unreal circumstances or unreal imagination or unreal narratives in your mind in which you do. You buy into it. I do it too. I'm still working through it. I understand it very well, but it's a trickster. So even when I'm not being conscientious, which is one of the things you would love to do, you would like to do, you have to become conscientious or become highly self-aware of when it's trying to manipulate you into doing something, or trying to create this image in your mind to not do something. Because like I said, it favors protecting you and it favors survival. So all it's doing is trying to have survival in everything that it does. If it deems talking to a girl, which, think about how sensitive your ego is when we talk about this for a moment. If it deems talking to a girl a very threatening thing to its existence, it will create so much resistance inside of you, to the point where you will run away. To the point where, right, they talk about fight, flight, or freeze. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. So meaning you will flight, right? You will not go talk to that girl. You will go around that girl. You will avoid that girl. Or you will, you might freeze up. You might go talk to her. You might hi. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna give it your all because you over there. Look, you got the beer jumping. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be right that bed froze up. So let's do another recap, because I'm having fun right now. Let's do another recap. Understand the foundation of the ego. And like I said, this is the nature of the ego, part 1. We're talking about survival, we're talking about protection, we're talking about imagery, and we're talking about language or verbiage. That's the ego's foundation. It's going to use imagery to try to convince you of something, or imagination to try to convince you of something. And if it really feels strong about it, if it really doesn't like it, or if it's something that you strongly have a dislike or a preference towards, it throws in a conversation along with the imagery, and it creates a narrative. So it combines the two. Sometimes you might not get something that's imaginary. You might not get an image or a symbol in your mind that correlates to the event, the person, place, or thing. You might just get conversation. And then vice versa, you might just get conversation without the imagination. But if it's, I've noticed through practicing and becoming more self-aware of the ego, when it's something that is a strong attachment, or a strong preference that you want to have, it uses both. It uses imagery and it uses your language or conversation. It combines it and it creates a narrative. And so you can see a mental movie play out. Oh, Joshua walks to the store and he sees a girl. Oh my God, she's beautiful. He doesn't look at her face, and so then he turns and look at the now laters. He buys now laters, even though he doesn't eat candy, but he tries to survive he tries to survive the experience. So he buys the now laters to play it off, to act like he wasn't really trying to holler at her, and then he gets out the store. He flights. This is an example, right? And so I think I'm about to tie this video up. So let me know if you guys resonate with this, and let me know if any of this makes sense, because it might be a little bit, out there. Let me know if it makes sense. But yeah, so I just want to end it off by saying that when you have an experience, ask yourself if you're being intentional about your imagination, or is the imagination created by default, meaning that your ego has played into the imagination and is trying to create a negative narrative for you to buy into. So be mindful of that, because I know you guys have been laying in your bed and you think about all these things that you desire, and you are consciously creating them. You're consciously creating the imagination. You're laying in your bed and you're thinking about what it would be like to have $1 million. You are consciously creating that. But then another flip side to it is the ego comes in and it creates a negative narrative of you not achieving that because of whatever your insecurities are, right? So be conscientious of when that voice comes in your mind, that narrative comes in your mind, that imagery that comes in your mind. Do not buy into it. It is not real. It's not factual. It's just a safety mechanism. I want you guys to start looking at it like that. It's a safety mechanism. It's a protective mechanism that's trying to prevent you from doing something that will potentially, which is never potential, but potentially the ego perceives it this way, danger to you. So all it's trying to do is protect you. So every time you hear this negative connotation or whatever, negative conversation, bring your awareness outside of you and see why the ego will feel threatened by what it is that it's telling you. Because the great thing is it can show you where you got some blockage inside of you that you need to remove. If you're afraid to talk to a girl, that means you might be afraid, you might have fear of rejection. So sometimes it's good, you can do some inner work with it. But for the most part, you want to always thrive, right? And not survive, or, you know what I'm saying, off of all your experiences. You just don't want to be constantly just surviving in the world. You want to thrive in the world. So if you're surviving is you just constantly listening to what the ego's saying. But you go beyond the ego is you thriving, right? So let's end it off on that note. Like I said, quick video. Like I said, I'm gonna keep coming with it because I be having so much stuff that come to me and I just be putting it on hold. So let me know if you guys rocks with the video, and I'm gonna see you guys in another video. And on that note, peace.